My sister borrowed my $320,000 apartment for a week while I was on business. When I returned, every room was empty. No furniture, no appliances, not even curtains. 2 hours later, she pulled up in a luxury coupe, smiling. "See? I told you I would earn this car." My mom, standing beside her, said, "You were going to renovate anyway." I replied, "Noted." That night, I disputed the car purchase and paused the transfer. 2 days later, my phone lit up with 33 calls. My sister was screaming when she found out the main news. You know that gut-level panic when you put your key in the lock, step inside, and something is off? Yeah, multiply that by 100. It was supposed to be just another routine trip, a week-long business conference in Chicago. I'd left my one-bedroom downtown apartment exactly as it always was, neat, organized, with my favorite leather sofa by the window and my espresso machine on the counter. A place I'd spent years paying off, finally mine. $320,000 of sweat, overtime, and skipped vacations. When I got back, I opened the door and froze. Empty. I don't mean messy empty. I mean stripped bare. No furniture. No appliances. Not even the curtains. The place echoed when I stepped inside, my footsteps bouncing off naked walls. I stumbled from room to room, like maybe my stuff had decided to relocate itself. The bedroom? Just dust outlines where my bed and dresser used to be. The kitchen? An empty rectangle of linoleum where my fridge once stood. The bathroom? Even the shower curtain was gone. My heart was pounding, half expecting a burglar to jump out, but the lock wasn't broken. The door hadn't been forced. And then, like a punch in the gut, a memory surfaced. My sister Ashley's text a week earlier. "Mind if I crash at your place while you're gone? Promise I'll take care of everything." 2 hours later, I got my answer. She pulled up in front of the building in a shiny black luxury coupe, top down, hair perfectly styled, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. "See," she said, stepping out in designer sunglasses. "I told you I'd earn this car." And there, right beside her, was my mother, holding a coffee cup like it was just another sunny afternoon. "You were going to renovate anyway," Mom added, as if explaining why my life savings had vanished into thin air. I just stared at them, every muscle in my body tight. "Noted," I said finally. That night, I sat in the dark with my laptop open, found the dealership transaction, and disputed it. Paused the transfer. 2 days later, my phone lit up with 33 missed calls. Ashley's voice came screaming through the voicemail when she found out the main news. Ashley has always been that sibling, the one who somehow makes impulsive, reckless choices look like bravery to our parents. If I saved up for years to buy something, she'd get it in a month because life is short. You can't take money with you. If I worked overtime to pay off a loan, she'd rack up credit card debt on spa weekends and new handbags, and Mom would call it treating herself. I'm the older one by 3 years, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the responsible child. Translation: I pay my bills on time, I don't blow rent money at casinos, and when Mom calls saying the washing machine broke, I'm the one she expects to fix it and cover the cost. Ashley, she's had more career changes than I've had vacations. Yoga instructor, social media manager, wellness retreat organizer, and her latest? Something about flipping luxury goods for profit, which, as far as I could tell, meant buying designer items on credit and trying to resell them for more than she paid. Spoiler, she was terrible at it. The favoritism wasn't even subtle. If I bought myself something nice, Mom would raise an eyebrow and say, "Hope you didn't overextend yourself." When Ashley showed up in a new $2,000 coat, Mom's reaction was, "She deserves it. She works so hard." Except she didn't. Not really. Over the years, I lost count of how many loans I'd given her. It always started the same. A tearful phone call, a promise it was temporary, and an emotional hook about how family is supposed to help family. The money was never paid back. 2 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I co-signed a lease for her boutique, a tiny, overpriced space in a high-traffic area she swore would become a hotspot. She stopped paying rent after 4 months. Guess who covered the remaining 8? Me, because the landlord came after the name that actually had a credit score. After that disaster, I swore I'd never mix her problems with my finances again. But in this family, boundaries are treated like speed bumps, something to roll over without slowing down. And then, the apartment. My apartment. It wasn't just a place to live. It was proof that years of working overtime, skipping trips, and putting away every extra dollar had meant something. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up in a two-bedroom rental where the ceiling leaked every winter. So owning a $320,000 place downtown felt like winning a war no one thought I'd survive. Ashley knew exactly how much it meant to me. She'd been there on moving day, sipping champagne in the kitchen, saying, "Wow, it's like a real adult lives here." That was her way of complimenting me. So when she texted me before my business trip, asking to borrow the place for a week, I almost said no. But she hit me with, "It's just for a few days. I'll water your plants. Keep it spotless." You know, I could use a quiet space to think. Thinking, in Ashley speak, meant scrolling Instagram and planning her next ill-fated hustle. But I caved. Maybe because part of me still wanted to believe she could be trusted. Big mistake. From what I pieced together later, she'd started plotting before I even left town. She had a friend who worked in some shady luxury consignment circle, the kind where merchandise changes hands fast, no receipts, no questions asked. In that world, furniture wasn't just furniture. It was high-value assets. The moment my suitcase rolled into O'Hare, Ashley was on the phone to her crew. My leather sofa? Sold within 48 hours. My custom oak dining table? Gone. Even my mid-tier appliances were apparently worth something on the resale market if you move them fast enough. And she didn't stop there. Clothes, electronics, the framed art I'd collected over the years, stripped and vanished. She even took the coffee maker I used every morning. The coffee maker. What really twisted the knife was learning how proud she was of it. That luxury coupe she pulled up in, bought with the proceeds of my belongings. And Mom, instead of being horrified, acted like Ashley had just landed a dream job. "You were going to renovate anyway," Mom had said, standing there in broad daylight as if she was making a reasonable point. Renovate? Sure. In my mind, that meant new paint and maybe a different backsplash, not replacing everything because my sister turned my home into her personal liquidation sale. Over the next 48 hours, I went from disbelief to anger to a cold, surgical kind of focus. I combed through bank records, traced the dealership payment, and froze the transfer before it cleared. I also found a series of Venmo and PayPal transactions from Ashley's account to a handful of names I didn't recognize, the same names that started popping up in Facebook Marketplace listings for items that looked eerily familiar. When I confronted Mom, she didn't even flinch. "Honey, Ashley's just trying to get ahead." She saw an opportunity. "You've always been so stable. You can rebuild." Stable. That's my family's polite way of saying, "We can take full advantage of you and you'll survive because you're the responsible one." By the time Ashley realized the money for her car was frozen, she was in full meltdown. 33 calls in a single afternoon. Half the voicemails were aggressive messages. The other half were attempts to guilt-trip me. "You've turned my life upside down," she screamed in one. "Do you know how hard I worked for that deal? You're supposed to be my brother, not my enemy." Worked? She'd worked by emptying my home like a swarm of locusts. And the worst part? Mom backed her. Again. The 33rd call came in just as I was pulling into my parking garage. My phone screen lit up with Ashley's name, the little thumbnail picture of her in oversized sunglasses and a smug smile, making my jaw clench so hard it hurt. I let it go to voicemail. Then I stepped out of the elevator into my stripped-bare apartment, and something inside me snapped. You know that feeling when you've been swallowing anger for so long it turns into something cold and sharp? That was me, standing in an empty living room where my sofa used to be. 5 minutes later, I was in my car, headed to Mom's house. The moment I walked in, I could hear voices, Ashley's high-pitched whining and Mom's calm, enabling tone. They were in the kitchen, coffee cups in hand like this was a normal Tuesday morning and not the aftermath of a heist. Ashley looked up, eyes blazing. "Oh, finally. Are you going to explain why you're sabotaging me?" I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "Sabotaging you? You emptied my apartment like a burglar, sold my things for cash, and you think you're the victim?" Her lips curled into that infuriating smirk. "It's called entrepreneurship, big brother. You wouldn't understand. You've always been scared to take risks." Mom chimed in, like she was moderating a panel discussion. She saw an opportunity. "Sweetheart, you have the means to recover." Ashley was just trying to get ahead. Get ahead. My voice was getting louder. By selling my bed, my TV, my kitchen appliances, by taking the clothes out of my closet. Ashley crossed her arms. "You're making this bigger than it is. The car was my investment. You paused the payment. That's theft." That word, "took without permission," nearly made me choke. "You want to talk about theft? Let's talk about the $15,000 worth of my property you liquidated without permission. Or the fact that you signed my name without my permission on the storage unit release form, so you could clear it out without me knowing." "Yeah, I know about that too." For the first time, She blinked. Mom stepped in, her tone suddenly sharp. You're being dramatic. This is family. Family shares. I turned to her, my voice icy. No. Family doesn't strip your home bare and buy themselves a sports car with the profits. Family doesn't guilt trip you into cleaning up their messes over and over. That's not family. That's exploitation. Ashley scoffed. You're acting like I didn't do you a favor. You said you wanted to redo your place anyway. Now you can start fresh. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, but making every word count. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return everything that hasn't been sold yet. You're going to give me the names of every person you sold my belongings to. And you're going to take that car back to the dealer before they come get it themselves. She rolled her eyes. Or what? I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and held it up so she could see the email drafts waiting to be sent. One to the police with the list of stolen items, another to her bank with screenshots of her resale listings, and one to the dealership including the disputed transfer details. You have 24 hours before these go out, I said. Tick-tock. For a moment, there was silence, just the sound of the fridge humming and Ashley's breathing getting faster. Then she exploded. You're impossible to deal with. You've always been jealous of me. You can't stand that I'm finally doing something with my life. I couldn't help it. I laughed again. Doing something with your life? You mean taking nearly everything from your own brother without asking? Yeah, Mom must be so proud. Mom slammed her coffee cup down. Enough. If you go through with this, you'll destroy this family. I looked her dead in the eye. This family's been rotting from the inside for years. I'm just done pretending it's not. Ashley lunged for my phone. I stepped back, pocketing it. This is over, I said. You have until tomorrow morning to make it right. After that, I'm not your brother. I'm the person filing an official complaint. She froze, her face draining of color. I walked out without another word, her shouting following me down the hall. Threats, insults, half-hearted sobs. Mom's voice was in there too, pleading, scolding, bargaining. But I didn't turn back. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't the stable one holding the family together. I was the one letting it fall apart, exactly where it belonged. By the time I woke up the next morning, my phone was lit up like a Christmas tree. 46 missed calls, 19 texts, and 7 voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. Ashley had apparently recruited half her contact list to harass me into dropping it. Too late. At 8 a.m. sharp, I hit send on every email draft. The police report, the list of my missing belongings, the screenshots of Ashley's listings, the dealership dispute. All of it went out. Within 2 hours, my inbox was buzzing with replies. The officer assigned to the case wanted to schedule a statement. The dealership thanked me for bringing a disputed transaction to their attention and confirmed the car was already flagged for repossession. At 10:17 a.m., I got a text from a mutual friend. Dude, your sister's car just got towed from outside your mom's place. She's losing her mind. I almost felt bad picturing her in that bathrobe she always wore in the mornings, hair a mess, screaming at a pickup driver who couldn't care less about her tantrum. Almost. By noon, Mom called. Not to apologize, not to ask how I was holding up. No, she opened with, do you realize what you've done? Ashley is embarrassed. Everyone's talking. Good, I said flatly. Maybe she'll think twice before she strips someone's home bare again. You've turned your own sister into a criminal in the eyes of the law, she shot back. No, I corrected her. Ashley turned herself into a criminal. I just stopped covering for her. Mom went quiet, but I could hear her breathing hard into the phone. The kind of angry silence where you know the person's still searching for a way to guilt you. Don't expect me to take sides in this, she finally said. You already did, I replied, and hung up. By late afternoon, the fallout was spreading. The shady resellers Ashley had funneled my belongings through were suddenly very eager to cooperate once they learned the police were involved. 2 of them had already messaged me offering to return items in exchange for me not naming them in the investigation. I made a list of what was coming back. My espresso machine, the oak dining table, half my clothes, and, unbelievably, the shower curtain. That night, I got a knock at my door. It was my cousin Leah, who I hadn't seen in months. She came in, looked around at the bare walls, and shook her head. I heard what happened, she said. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but it's Ashley. She's been bragging for weeks about some big score she was working on. Everyone knew she was talking about you. The anger I thought had cooled started burning again. She was bragging? Oh yeah, Leah said, sitting down on the one chair I still had. Said you were too predictable, too nice to ever stop her. Guess she was wrong. The validation felt good, but it also made me realize just how long Ashley had been counting on me being her safety net. 2 days later, the official notice came. The dealership had taken the car back, refunded the frozen transfer, and was cooperating with the investigation. I'd get partial restitution from the property sales, but most of the money was gone, burned through on business expenses that turned out to be spa trips, designer bags, and one inexplicable $800 charge to something called VIP Champagne Lounge. Ashley, meanwhile, was in damage control mode. She posted a 900-word Facebook rant about how I'd betrayed my own blood and ruined her career. The comments were a mixed bag, half her friends parroting her sob story, the other half asking uncomfortable questions about why she'd been selling her brother's stuff. The best part? An old high school friend of mine who works in real estate messaged me. "Didn't your mom say Ashley was getting into property staging? I guess she forgot to mention that inventory came from your apartment." The ripple effect hit mom harder than she wanted to admit. People in her social circle started side-eyeing her at church, whispering about that situation with her daughter. She called me again a week later, her tone smaller than before. "Maybe we all handled this badly," she said. I didn't sugarcoat it. No, they handled it badly. I handled it the only way that stopped it from happening again. And I meant it. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for the next emergency phone call, the next emotional shakedown. My apartment was still half empty, but it was mine again. Quiet. Safe. Over the next month, I replaced only what I truly needed. A new sofa, nothing fancy, but comfortable. A refurbished espresso machine. Curtains I picked out myself, just because I liked the pattern. One night, as I was sipping coffee in that quiet space, I got a text from Leah. "You know, Ashley's been telling people she wishes she'd just asked you for help instead of pulling that stunt. Not that she's apologized, but still." I smiled to myself, because that was as close to remorse as Ashley was ever going to get, and it was enough for me to know I'd finally broken the cycle. I'd stopped being the bank. I'd stopped being the doormat. And maybe most importantly, I'd stopped being afraid to let the family fall apart. It's been 3 months since the day I walked into my apartment and found nothing but bare walls and echoing floors. 3 months since I froze the car payment, filed an official report, and lit the match that burned every last bridge between me and my sister. And here's the truth no one tells you. When you finally cut off the people who've been bleeding you dry for years, the silence is deafening, but it's also addictive. At first, it felt weird not to be on edge every time my phone rang. No more emergency texts from Ashley at 1 a.m. asking for a quick $500 just until Friday. No more guilt-laced voicemails from mom about how family helps family, which really meant I helped them. The space in my head that used to be filled with their drama is now mine. I've started using it for things I didn't have time for before. I picked up a Saturday morning boxing class. Not because I'm training for anything, but because it feels good to hit something that won't call me selfish afterward. I started taking weekend trips, nothing extravagant, just me, a rental car, and the open road. And my apartment? It's becoming a home again. I'm replacing things slowly, intentionally. Every new item is something I chose, paid for, and placed exactly where I want it. A quiet reminder that I own this space, and no one else gets a say. The family fallout is still simmering. Mom and I talk occasionally, but it's surface level, birthdays, weather, the kind of conversation you'd have with a polite neighbor. She hasn't apologized, not really. She still frames it as a misunderstanding that got out of hand. I don't bother correcting her anymore. She knows the truth. Ashley, well, she's reinvented herself again. Last I heard, she's calling herself a luxury lifestyle consultant, whatever that means. She blocked me on social media after I refused to take down my posts explaining exactly why the police showed up at her door. Apparently, the truth was bad for her brand. The rest of the family is split. Some think I went too far, that I should have handled it privately to avoid public embarrassment. Others have quietly told me they wish they had the guts to do what I did. That second group, they're the ones I actually spend time with now. The biggest change, though, isn't about Ashley or mom or anyone else. It's about me. For years, I wore the responsible one like a badge of honor, but it was really a leash. It kept me in place, kept me useful to the people who knew exactly how to pull it. I thought keeping the peace was the noble thing to do, but all it really did was make me an easy target. The day I hit send on those emails, I cut the leash. And yeah, the fallout was ugly. Relationships ended. Voices were raised. Bridges burned so hot they turned to ash. But on the other side of all that, there's peace. I don't check my bank account every morning wondering which loan I'll be pressured into next. I don't rearrange my life to accommodate someone else's mess. I don't explain my boundaries, I enforce them. And here's the thing. Once you get a taste of living without the constant weight of someone else's chaos, you realize you're not just surviving, you're actually living. Do I miss the idea of having a close family? Sometimes. But the family I wanted never really existed, just a version in my head where loyalty went both ways and respect was mutual. The reality was one-sided, and I was the only one paying the bill. So no, I don't miss that. The other night, I got a message from Leah. Short and simple. Ran into Ashley. She's telling people you learned your lesson. I think she meant that you won't mess with her again. I stared at that message for a long time, then laughed. She's right about one thing. I did learn my lesson. Just not the one she thinks. I learned that no one, not even family, is entitled to a piece of me just because we share DNA. I learned that boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. And I learned that sometimes the only way to fix a toxic system is to walk away from it completely. So if Ashley's out there thinking I'm sitting here stewing, plotting revenge, or regretting what I did, she's wrong. I'm sitting here on my new sofa, drinking coffee from my new espresso machine, in an apartment that's mine again, and feeling lighter than I have in years. The final thought I keep coming back to: I'm not the bad guy for refusing to be someone's backup plan, safety net, or personal ATM. I'm just a man who finally realized that saving myself was worth more than saving a relationship that only existed when they needed something. And if that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Because for the first time, I'm finally the hero in my own.